Hello and welcome to this episode of the Human Instrument Mastery Podcast. I am so excited to dive deeper with you today. In the last episode, we were talking about the programming process, and today I want to talk about the main 5 limiting patterns that are programmed through that process into most humans' instruments operating system and that are creating an upper limit that is holding people back and possibly you from really breaking through and reaching the higher potential and levels and frequencies that you would like to create and experience in your life. And so I want you to take a pen and paper today because you really want to take notes and definitely note down those 5 limiting patterns so you can start identifying which one of those are in your programming. And it can definitely be a combination of some or even all that are together interwoven and intertwined into the program as a whole and into that upper limit in which they are expressed and manifested in your experience. So, limiting pattern number 1 is the very common belief that you are fundamentally flawed, that there is something wrong with you, that you are not good enough. Sounds familiar? And this was created because of the wall of separation, as we've explored in previous episodes, that has been built through that programming process and created this sense of separation between who you truly are that you innately and unconsciously knew as you were coming into this human body and instrument and the external world and that personality, that programming, that paradigm that was created in the operating system of the instrument to match and adapt and survive in that external world that did not validate that inner knowing. And so if nobody knows and validates and confirms and even responds to that innate truth of who you truly are, then there must be something wrong with you that is not matching and needs to now adjust and adapt to the external world. Now, of course, this was not a conscious thought or a conscious process, but this unconscious process created this underlying limiting belief that you are not good enough just the way you are. And so this is limiting pattern number 1. Limiting pattern number 2 is the belief that there is no greater power. And so it's all up to you. And this, of course, relates to what we just discussed and mentioned. If there is no other truth than this external world and this physical body, then it takes sheer effort and it's all up to you to adapt, to survive, to succeed. And there is no higher power, no unseen forces, no universe that is cooperating with you and backing you up on your journey, which of course is not true. But the limiting unconscious belief that this is it is very harmful and limiting and is part of that program in many cases. Limiting pattern number 3 is that more success leads to bigger burden. More success leads to bigger burden. And again, you can see how this can be linked and intertwined together with the previous one that we just discussed. Because if it's all up to you and it takes sheer power and force and effort in order to make progress on this physical journey in this world, then if you create more success, you will have bigger burden because you will need to work harder in order to be more successful. And of course, that is not true. That defies the universal laws, but these universal laws that this belief defies are not yet common knowledge and common sense, and definitely most probably haven't been when you were growing up. Limiting pattern number 4 is the fear of abandonment or disloyalty. The fear of abandonment or disloyalty. Let's give an example. If you, let's say, were brought up in an environment where poverty was the norm, if your parents had to work very hard in order to put food on the table, then you being successful and even being successful with ease might mean unconsciously that you are disloyal to your parents and also then may mean that you are risking being abandoned by your parents as a result. So the belief, the unconscious belief that you being successful will be disloyal to your family, to your lineage, can hold you back from actually being successful. And then limiting pattern number 5 is the fear of outshining others. The fear of outshining others, which again, you can see how can be linked and intertwined with the one we just discussed. Because if you are more successful than your parents or your siblings or your community that you live in, then you might be outshining them, making them uncomfortable. And so you might limit yourself from actually being more successful. And this might be a result of simple experiences growing up, like being told to keep you down and not shine too bright so your brother or your sister or your friend won't be jealous or feel uncomfortable. So you can see how these 5 limiting patterns can be intertwined and interconnected and can be woven into one whole program that is limiting you from really breaking through and creating the success, the freedom, the abundance that you desire. Now, when these limiting patterns show up and are actually limiting you, there are symptoms to that. And being aware and familiar with these symptoms will help you recognize when these patterns are actually activated. And this awareness can then help you to deactivate them and make new choices in real life situations. So these symptoms are, for example, worry. When you find yourself being preoccupied with thoughts of worry and doubt and worst case scenarios, then this is a really strong signal for you that your upper limit is now being at play and that those limiting patterns, one or a few of them, are now activated and you are operating on this outdated program that will not allow you to break through. So this is a really good and powerful symptom, and of course, a very common one. Another one is when you are very judgmental, either towards yourself or towards other people. If you find yourself beating yourself up or being very critical with other people in your life, maybe even finding yourself more often than not in arguments, these are really strong symptoms and signals for you that, again, one or a few of these patterns are now activated and you're operating on an outdated program that is holding you back. Another strong symptom is an inclination to become sick or even to get into small or big accidents, especially if those things are happening in a pattern over and over again. Because, and as we discuss here a lot and will continue doing so in this podcast, everything, including everything in your life, starting with how you feel, your physical body, and everything outside of it, is a direct reflection of where your instrument is set. What is the program and the setting of the program that the instrument is currently operating on? And so that includes your health and even conditions and circumstances that seem like accident that are out of your control. They are all reflections and manifestations of internal states of being that you indeed can, with the skill that you can develop and master, shift and change. And this will result in changes in your physical reality, starting again from how you feel, and then your physical body and health, and even things like accidents and what would normally may seem like out of your control. So again, a pattern of getting sick or getting into accidents, small or big, is a symptom and an indication that those patterns are activated and you are operating on the outdated program. And so what to do when you recognize that this is happening? Well, number one, become aware. Awareness is key and is already a big part of the work, is just to become aware that this is happening. And then that leads almost automatically to taking ownership and responsibility for what is happening, realizing, okay, this is happening because I'm operating on an outdated program. And this is my instrument. And so I have complete freedom and opportunity to change the setting. It is just a skill that you can practice and master. And so the moment you are aware that this is what is actually happening and that is the cause of it, you can then take the decision to change the setting, to do the work, to practice the skill so you can update the program and therefore create those changes in your life. So even if you are frustrated with someone in your life, even if, again, something is happening that seems like it is out of your control, you can create an internal shift that will reflect in those external relationships, communications, conditions, and circumstances. And then what you want to do is find a time. It doesn't need to take very long, but you definitely want to take 10, 15 minutes, if not more, in a quiet space when you are not fully activated and triggered. Take a piece of paper and a pen and then describe the situation as it is, whatever it is that is happening, whether it is a communication with another person, an accident, a health condition, or any other thing. Just describe the situation as it is. And then really break down the pattern and how it is showing up inside you, how the instrument is operating, which means your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. So you really describe as it is in a non-attached and non-judgmental state towards yourself, just describing the situation and then breaking down how you're thinking in the situation, how you're feeling, and how you are behaving. And then you're going to turn the page or take a blank piece of paper and write down the situation as you would like it to be. Now, here is very important that you use only positive words and present tense. So do not say what you do not want it to be, and do not talk about it as if it is happening in the future, as in it will or I will. Describe it as it is happening right now in positive words, only as you do want it to unfold. Break down the pattern. How are you thinking in that desired situation? How are you feeling in that desired situation? And how are you behaving in that desired situation? This way, you are reverse engineering the program by tapping into that situation with your instrument, with your mind, and really creating the pattern that you would like to install in the instrument. And of course, then that takes practice, right? That takes practice. So in a meditative state, you can visualize yourself in the desired situation, thinking, feeling, and acting in this way. And then in real life situations, you can come up with some sort of a trigger word or a trigger gesture or a trigger image that in real life situations you will bring up to activate the new pattern and then show up in that new version of yourself with that new pattern that you have curated for yourself. You might not manage to do that on the first time, but with practice, this will work. With practice, I am telling you, this will work. Now, if you want to have access to some meditations that can help you with that, I would love for you to message me on Instagram, message me the word energy, and I will send you a link to a free set of free meditations that will help you practice this and more and shift your frequency, your patterns, and as a result, your life. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and I can't wait to share with you the next episode where we will go even deeper into the core wound where all separation stems from. So stay tuned for the next episode, and if you can think of someone that can benefit from this information, please share with them this episode and the podcast so they can also master their human instrument. Sending you so much love. See you next time.